Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti, hoping you guys are having a good day, and above all else, that you're looking after yourselves and one another. Before we get into the topic of this episode, I want to welcome back to the channel Mr. Bill Schuster. How's it
Hey,
going, Bill?
Armando. Going well, as always. Good to be here. Glad to see you.
It's been a while. It's good to see you too. Love the shirt and the
Thank you.
backdrop.
I wonder what we're talking about today.
I have no idea. I have no
Probably
idea.
Rush or something. I don't know.
For the record, ladies and gentlemen, that prop that is hanging behind Bill, I believe it's a t-shirt of Queen. I
So
picked
is
up that
that
t-shirt in Australia in 2018.
nice?
So, as you well guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about Queen. Specifically, a question that has been on the minds of journalists and fans alike, more journalists, since the release of this certain album that was released in the spring of 1974. And in my case, since I started pressing record for this episode. So, the question is, first of all, the band Queen, the album in question, Queen 2, and the $65,000 question for this episode, Queen 2, is this prog? Right? Now, everyone knows out there, everyone and their dog knows out there that I'm a major fan of Queen. All right? I have all the albums in triplicate, and I will be a fan until I leave this earth. But the question of Queen 2 being a prog album has come up over the past couple of years more and more. Now, before I get into my shtick about what I feel about the album, I will pass the virtual mic over to Bill Schuster, and we will get his take on this.
All right. Thank you, sir. Um, to begin, the anytime you ask about a particular album and you ask, "Is this prog?" That pretty well goes back to the ultimate question: What is prog?
Hmm.
That's something that every person that considers himself remotely a prog fan has probably wrestled with in their own heads, debated on the internet, whatever, at some point or another. And there's never truly a satisfying answer. Everybody
Hmm.
has their own idea. So now I will say I looked at probably the most reliable source on the internet, I think, for progressive rock information. There's a site called Prog Archives, and it's a user-based site where every member is welcome to submit reviews, and a lot of albums there and artists have tons of reviews. Pardon the dogs in the background, folks.
No problem.
They thought we were doing a Pink Floyd Animals episode, apparently.
There you go. There you go.
Next time, boys. uh,
Yes.
so I want to bring up Prog Archives because they actually have Queen listed as a prog related artist on their site. uh, and just for the record, Queen 2, now they have a 5-star rating system there.
Hmm.
Queen 2 is the highest ranked album on Prog Archives amongst Queen's catalog, and it's at 4.35.
Really?
That's pretty high rating for a progressive rock site. So that leans right there towards the general consensus of prog fans being that yes, this is to some degree prog. Like I said, it's in the prog related category,
Yes.
but the only other one that's even over 4 is A Night at the Opera at 4:30.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, the prog fans there have pretty clearly spoken. They love this album.
Hmm.
Um, now, if we look at what the classic prog bands are, I mean, we could quibble over all kinds of different Gentle Giant, Van der Graaf, King Crimson, whatever, but I think it's safe to say probably the big two popular ones that everybody are mostly agreed upon are Yes and Genesis. You think? Um, their whole catalogs are not prog, but they're considered prog artists.
Hmm.
You know, Genesis had all kinds of prog stuff, but In Too Deep, Throwing It All Away, great songs, but not prog.
Hmm.
Yes, Love Will Find a Way, The Rhythm of Love, definitely not prog. but great songs again. So, I mean, it's very possible for an artist to put out prog albums, whether or not they are a prog artist, or for a prog artist to put out non-prog albums. I mean, it's really kind of all over the map there. Now, do I think Queen is a prog artist in general in the classic sense? No. Do I think they're progressive? Absolutely. If you look at their catalog and see all the experimentation, all the different styles and things that they tried, and how they grew as a band over the years, absolutely, they are a progressive artist. But the album in question is Queen 2.
Yes.
Is this prog? I would definitely say it is their proggiest album. Would I call it pure prog, like on the level of Close to the Edge or Foxtrot or Thick as a Brick? No, but it doesn't have to be. I don't think it has to be prog because it's Queen. It's better than prog. So,
Interesting point.
um, to me, the great thing about Queen is that they're able to touch so many different musical genres and styles, and prog is only one of those. But there is enough proggy stuff here, especially on side two, the Freddie side, I think, to definitely qualify this particular album as a prog album.
Hmm.
Um, I'd say it's every bit as progressive as Genesis from, like, say, a Trick of the Tail onward,
Okay.
and that's good enough for me. You
Mm-hmm.
might quibble about a couple of songs on here. I mean, Roger's "Loser in the End" is certainly not prog, but it rocks. It's a
Mm-hmm.
kick-ass rock song, and that's good enough for me. "Funny How Love Is" on Freddie's side, not really proggy, but it doesn't matter. Again, it goes with the flow on that whole side and fits in well.
Okay.
And kind of the same with Brian's "Someday, One Day"
Yeah.
on the previous side. It's not proggy, but in the overall flow of the album, it works well. I mean, obviously, the proggy bits we're looking at are like "Procession" and "Father to Son," "White Queen," and then most of side two, all the Freddie stuff, the Ogre Battle, March of the Black Queen, Fairy Feller's Master Stroke. That's the stuff we're really digging into for the prog, and it's absolutely there. All those ridiculous vocals, they're maybe not quite as complex as, say, what Gentle Giant was doing back at that time, but they were doing something different than Gentle Giant was with the vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they weren't trying to be quite as weird. They were trying to be a bit more. I don't want to say musical. I don't want to insult Gentle Giant because I love them too, but more accessible, I guess. And I don't mean that as a negative way at all.
Yeah.
I mean it in a very positive way. Yeah, they really started perfecting their harmonies here. The Freddie, Brian, and Roger team working together sounded great. I
Okay.
don't know. What do you think, Armando? Is this
Well,
album prog, or would you say it's country?
my question, good question. My one question to you is, listening to this album, do you feel that this is one of their more heavier albums throughout the run of the album?
Um, I think it goes back and forth. Again, got those kind of the balladish songs almost that I mentioned earlier. The "Funny How Love Is," and then there's "Nevermore" and the "Someday, One Day." But there is a lot of kick-ass Brian guitar work in this.
Yes.
He's very strong on this album. So
Open chords and yeah. Um,
yeah,
yeah, reminiscent of like the Who, like Pete Townsend and stuff. Okay. Well, okay. Thank you, Bill. Before I give my view of this album, I'm going to give everyone background of this album. Queen 2 was released on March 8th, 1974 in the UK and April 9th in the US. It was recorded began on the album August 5th of 1973 to February 20th of 1974. Okay. So just as the first album was released and gaining momentum, yes, yes, good plug. The band were already willing or itching to go back in the studio and start recording the music that would become Queen 2. The album was produced by Roy Thomas Baker, Robin Jeffrey Gable, and Queen. Robin Jeffrey Gable also had done work previously with Freddie Mercury on the one-off single I Can Hear Music, backed with Going Back. Uh, Freddie Mercury singing under the name of Larry LaRue, featuring Brian May on guitar for I Can Hear Music. Robin Jeffrey Gable also worked on the Tumbleweed Connection album with Elton John. Okay. Now, upon release, the album took off in the UK, hitting number 5 in the UK charts, number 49, so a step above 84 from the previous album in the US, and it reached number 40 in the Canadian charts. Okay. So Queen were a band on the rise at that point. Okay. They were slowly gaining momentum. And this is at a time, sorry, when record companies actually gave their artists time to develop their sound. Okay. Now, the $65,000 question for me is this prog? It is prog as only Queen can do it. Because when you look at the packaging of the album, the head and shoulders shot, the infamous album cover shot that was done by Mick Rock. The inspiration for that album cover was from a movie called Shanghai Express, featuring Marlene Dietrich in the famous crossing hands pose that Freddie Mercury said when he saw that photo from Mick Rock, said, aha, okay, I shall be Marlena in the photo. Okay. When Mick Rock heard the acetate of this album, he said, ah, yes, Ziggy Stardust meets Led Zeppelin. And that's what they were going for. Okay. This album has been described by Brian May as the emotional music that they've always wanted to make. Very over the top. In fact, the original title for this album was going to be Over the Top due to the, you know, uh, multiple overdubs with the guitars, the harmony vocals, the drumming, just the overall feel of the music that they were doing. Okay, there were such songs that were made available at the time for the recording as Brighton Rock and Stone Cold Crazy, but those were left off of the album because they didn't fit the thematic idea that they had for the album, meaning good versus evil. The sides were listed as side white and side black. Okay. At the time, you had bands such as Yes and King Crimson releasing Red, Yes releasing a year before Tales from Topographic Oceans, selling them by the pound from Genesis. So I think that Queen were trying to fit in um, that realm, that sort of arena. Okay. Did they succeed with this album? I'm a little biased, but you know what? I think they did because it is heavy, it is aggressive, major use of harmony vocals um, from Freddie Mercury, Roger Taylor, and Brian May. Major use of guitar overdubs from Brian May. Just like out of this world. Okay. The the album sides were listed as side white and side black. Okay. Um, there are 11 tracks in total. The album ranges in around 40 minutes and change in terms of playing time. Yes, this is to me a majority of the music on this album could be looked at as prog, specifically side black. Okay, let me take it a step back. Specifically, Procession that segues into Father to Son, that segues into White Queen. Those three tracks together on side one could be very much listed as prog music. Side Black, which is written all by Freddie Mercury. You have, it starts off with Ogle Battle, starts off with a backwards gong, okay, that comes in. You hear the harmony vocals that come in, the backwards guitar on that. Just amazing. All the songs, with the exception of Seven Seas of Rye, segue into one another. You have the Fairy Fellows Masterstroke, use of intricate guitar work, harpsichord, just an intricate harmony vocals from the band, just amazing. Segues into Nevermore. A minute and 17 seconds of just melodic bliss for me. Okay, it's beautiful. The March of the Black Queen is pretty much the bone of contention of this album in terms of progressive rock. According to Roger Taylor, there are, as I said before, 11 different sections to this track. 11. Okay, you have different time signatures going through the track. Okay, the middle section has Freddie Mercury triple tracking himself in terms of the a cappella vocal delivery on the track. If this is not prog, I honestly don't know what is. Okay, in terms of the way Queen can deliver it. Now, as much as this is prog, this, for I believe the life cycle of the album up until now in the US, was listed as the lowest selling Queen album ever. And I do think that this album does suffer, and it suffers from time, the time that it was released. Okay. I think that had Queen and Queen 2, Queen being recorded in 1972 and Queen 2 being recorded in 1973, had they been released at the time they were recorded, I think that Queen 2 would have been given a better chance in North America. Okay. Now, well, Bill can disagree, obviously. Now,
Oh, I have a thought on that. Go ahead.
okay, no, that's fine. Now, the fact that these songs were so intricate meant that some of them could never be performed live in concert. Okay. Like Funny How Love Is was never performed live, ever. Okay. The March of the Black Queen was only performed in segments, in sections, because it was too intricate to do it live. Father to Son was done live. White Queen was done live. The Fairy Fellows Masterstroke, you can hear a live version of it Live at the Rainbow, 1974. Okay. And they quickly stopped performing that track shortly after that performance at the Rainbow in November of 74 on the Queen, March 31st of 1974 on the Queen 2 tour. Okay. Not that I know these things, but I do. Again, the question is put out there. Is this prog? Yes, my very humble opinion. I'm going to get hate mail for this and barrage of bad comments, but you know what? I do think that this is prog in only the way that Queen can do it. So there's my answer.
Um, my thought earlier wasn't to disagree with your
Sorry.
analysis necessarily. It was more to add on to. I think part of the problem with this album, in the States at least, was the lack of a real single. There's not really a hit on this album. I know Seven Seas of Rye was a hit elsewhere, but most of this album is not really single friendly. And most Queen
No,
albums have singles, which
yeah,
helps. So even the debut had Keep Yourself Alive and Liar, which got a lot of play.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, Seven Seas of Rye, released as a single in the UK, reached number 10 in the UK charts.
Yeah, it broke them there pretty good.
Yeah, and um, I do believe that the band were pushing for the public and for the public at large to listen to the album as a whole, as a collective piece of work. I understand that, but when you're going to try to sell an album, you need a hook. You need something that's going to give the audience and give DJs a reason to put the album on. Like a song that they can identify with. Um, and maybe it was lack of promotion from Elektra. I don't know. But again, they were still on the rise at this point, right? And I mean, as I was saying with the March of the Black Queen, the fact that you've got polyrhythmic and polymetric time signatures going at the same time, during the performance of the track, during the making of it, and you've got ascending vocal lines and descending piano lines, just and crisscrossing and just making a wonderful noise. You know what I mean? It was just it to me. It's a perfect album. I have an emotional connection to it because I've been listening to these albums since I was 13. When I first got it on cassette, remember cassettes, ladies and gentlemen? Cassettes. Um, I would I would obviously automatically listen to side black. It took me a while to get used to listening to side white, but once I did and got into it, I was off and running. I could never hit those notes, maybe before puberty hit, but I could never hit those notes that Freddie did and the band did. But to me, this album, from the packaging, the black and white theme, the pictures, to the music, overall, it was really well thought out and really well put together. And yes, to me, this is a prog album, a la Queen. But I have to preface that with a la Queen because they always did anything that they wanted to do in their own way, right? And I think in closing, I think there was, as Freddie put it in an interview in '85, there was a hunger to get music out as much as they could and to do as much as they could on an album. It was to the point when they were mixing the March of the Black Queen, the tape went clear. They lost the oxide on the tape because they were running it through so many times with overdubs and bouncing it over like the Beatles used to do with their vocals and production techniques, that they were actually losing musical sections. They had to transcribe it quickly to a master tape, otherwise they were going to lose everything. The actual tape was clear. There was no oxide left on the tape. So did they do too much? It's up for the audience to decide. For me, I think they did the right amount, but I'm biased, right? So,
I mean, it's
uh,
Queen. Doing too much is kind of part of their thing.
yeah,
And it's not necessarily a bad thing.
no, no, not in this case anyway. We won't talk about hot space, but that's another issue altogether.
How many times have they been called pretentious?
Yes.
But that alone should qualify them as prog because progressive artists always get called pretentious by know nothing critics.
Well, I mean, again, you had the Yes doing a double album consisting of 4 songs. Okay. Uh, Attempting to rewrite the Bible, quote unquote. That was from a critic of the Yes. So, I mean, what's wrong with another band like Queen trying to sort of create their own sort of niche in that market? You know what I mean? So, I mean, and from then on, they would do different styles of music. They would do dance hall, they would do pop, they would do ragtime, jazz, they would, but for this album, they wanted to present a unified approach of heavy melodic rock music.
Now, the follow up, sheer heart attack. How uh, do you think they consciously went away from the more progressive aspects on sheer heart attack and tried to make a simpler rocking album?
Yeah, I think yes, I do. Freddie Mercury said at one point that maybe that he thought maybe they put too much on Queen too. Maybe they tried to do too much, and it was too much for the U.S. Public the U.S. audiences to get their mind around. And that's when he had said the original title for the album was Over the Top, you know. And it's got to be said too. Roger Taylor's gone on record of saying that Queen 2 for a title is very unimaginative. Like he hates the title.
Roger must not be a Chicago fan.
I won't even go there. I won't even go there because I mean, yes, it's simple to name your albums like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, but again, where's the imagination, for album titles? Do you have any other comments to put or to make or
Um, maybe if they had promotional pillows back in 1974, the album might have sold better in the States. Because imagine cuddling up to this lovely Queen 2 pillow. Wouldn't that just make you want to go right out and buy the album to listen to it?
of course, why not? Why not? Where did you get that?
Stacy got it for me somewhere. I have no idea, but
Okay. Okay. There you go, guys. That's a real Queen fan for you there. When you've got the album artwork from Queen 2 on a pillow. There you go. There you go.
you don't get to see the side view of the pillow often, how it goes all the way
No,
around.
there you go. No, I didn't know that. I thought it was only one-sided. Okay.
No, they did great with this.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of Is This Prog? And again, the question of the hour, Queen 2, is this prog? So please put your comments down below, down there, what you think of Queen 2. Do you like Queen 2? Do you think it's one of their better albums? Do you think it's one of their underrated albums? No right or wrong answers, just opinions. I want to thank Bill Schuster for joining me in on this very impromptu, um, lighthearted episode
Yeah,
of Is
glad to
This
be here.
Prog? And we want to wish Jim Bricker all the best. He was supposed to join in on this episode, but he got called away for work duties. So
I'm
we'll
sure
see
we'll
you
hear from
soon.
him in the comments.
Yes. Yes. Jim, put your comments down below. We know you listened to the album. So please put your comments down below what you think of Queen 2. Now, coming up on the channel, I've got an episode coming up with Jim Bricker and Ken Cheshire on Donald Fagen's solo debut album from 1982, The Night Fly. That's going to be taped this coming Sunday. So we're going to be doing an album discussion on that album. And we have more episodes coming up in the near future. Bill and I are going to be doing more episodes on new music discovery on the Tea Party. And we're going to be covering, hopefully, The Edges of Twilight, because we did recently did
Splendor Solace.
Splendor Solace. Okay, so please stay tuned for that. And again, look after yourselves and one another. I'm Armando Venditti. Please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to again keep yourselves on top of any new content that got coming up. And just a quick note, we know that most people have been watching the 31 Perfect Albums series, and we've been getting pretty decent views. And we want to thank everybody for that's tuned in and left their comments and their picks for what they think are perfect albums. And for those of you out there who haven't watched it yet, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Like really. We had a really good time, a good fun time doing this series. It was hard work, but we enjoyed it. We enjoyed each other's company, and we hope you guys, when you watch it, that you see that does come across because it does. It does. So, again, for Mr. Bill Schuster, I'm Armando Venditti signing off, and we'll see you soon with another video. Bye for now.